This podcast contains strong language.
Hello and welcome to What Lingers. This is the podcast from the people behind Storytelling Lisboa, where we uncover the questions behind people's stories.
I'm Christian Figueroa.
And I'm Liz Melchor.
And we are the team behind Storytelling Lisboa, where once a month, 10 storytellers get on stage in front of 200 people and tell true and personal stories related to a theme.
We don't produce anyone. We encourage newcomers. The night is free for all. We want an inclusive stage dedicated to fostering community, sharing the human experience.
And we just love it. But, honey, there is a problem. We always have lingering questions for the storytellers and no format to ask them. Until now.
What Lingers is a chance to dive back in, inviting storytellers to retell their stories and stay for a conversation in front of a smaller live audience at LX Brewery in the heart of Lisbon. This week's story cracks me up. This story is so good. It's about getting yourself into one of those situations and then you kind of can't get out and you keep digging yourself deeper and deeper and deeper and it's like, what is gonna happen?
You're absolutely right. I remember the story from the stage and the storyteller is so good at making fun of himself. So you kind of feel sorry, but you enjoy it and you laugh all the time. So yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
A reminder that we recorded this in a legit brewery, and so you may hear a bit of background brewing.
So Liz, are you ready?
Ready.
Here's Alex with his story on the theme Misled.
Hi everyone. I kind of didn't fully think through my outfit, which is like mildly transparent. I was feeling like a really kind of gay, sexy summer vibe, and then I forgot I was going to be on stage later, so apologies, or you're welcome, depending on how you feel right now. My story starts in Sydney, Australia, which is where I'm from, where I grew up. And it starts, I'm around 15 or 16 at the time. So this is the picture that I'm painting for you. Sydney, Australia, I'm 15 or 16. So when I was 15 or 16 years old, I was basically insufferable. I mean, like most 15, 16-year-olds are, but I was like a theater geek. I was really into like music theater and drama and acting and all that kind of stuff. I sometimes say that I was kind of like a amalgamation of all of the different characters of Glee. Like, that was kind of where I was at as a 16-year-old. And you could not tell me that I was not going to become the next like gay, brown Kate Blanchett. Like I had that fantasy in my head and I was like, I had my Oscar speech planned, like it was all going to happen, right? And I hadn't thought anything more about it. So when I'm at this age, I sit my parents down and I'm like, guys, I really feel like you're not taking my career seriously enough. Like, I'm gonna get an Oscar, like we need to talk about investment, we need to talk about like, what are you doing to make this happen for me? And so me and my parents strike an agreement that if I get good grades that term, they will pay for me to go to a kind of drama acting summer school. It's called ATYP, the Australian Theatre for Young People, very highbrow. So that semester, that term, I get my grades and I go to the school. This is all context, by the way. The story is coming. This is kind of all like important context. I think this was like just before the invention of the smartphone, or at least like I did not have a smartphone. I had a Motorola Razor for anyone who was around at that time. Very cute, very non-functional. And my mum had texted me instructions for how to get to this particular summer school, right? So to help me to get there, because it was like at a time where you couldn't just Google things on the go. So she texts me, it's like a bus, a train, and another bus. I'm from kind of a certain part of Sydney, and the school's like in the center of Sydney. It's like a whole rigmarole. I get to the summer school, it's amazing, it's like the best day ever. I'm thinking like, I'm definitely gonna mention this in my Oscars speech. Oh my God, it's about like characterization and accents and like dialects and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, wow, what an amazing day, what an amazing time. I finish the school, I finish the first day, walk out, and I go to check my phone to figure out my instructions for how to get back home. And I look down at my phone and it's dead, and I'm like, okay, well, that's not great, but I can probably reverse engineer the trip that I got, like the trip that I had to take to get on the way here to get back. So I go to the bus stop, which I think is the right bus stop, jump on the bus, and I'm like, 10 minutes into the journey, and I'm like, this is not the bus. This is definitely not the bus. And I know that I'm still in Sydney, and I can see like the skyline of the city, but I'm like, I don't know really where I am right now. So I decided to get off the bus, and I think this is at the point where like the story deviates. Like there's what a normal person would have done in this scenario, and then there's what I did, which is what makes the story, right? So I'm gonna say that a normal person in this scenario would have gotten off the bus and thought, okay, my phone's dead. I'm gonna approach someone, I'm gonna ask them for the directions to get to the nearest train station, and then be on my merry way. But I don't know how to explain it at the time. I think I had this weird like teenager logic where I decided that it was embarrassing to ask someone for directions because I was like from the city, and I was like, I can't just ask someone like how to get to Central Station. I'm from Sydney, this is so embarrassing. And then I thought, wait a second. I just had this like incredible summer school day. Maybe this could be like a brilliant improvisational exercise. So maybe I will ask somebody for directions, but maybe I'll do it in character. So then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna develop a character. I'm gonna improv, I'm gonna like imitate, I'm gonna develop a character. So at first I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? Like, what kind of character am I gonna do? And I'm thinking, well, I don't really have time to create like a whole backstory, like I've gotta get home. So instead I'm just gonna choose an accent from a part of the world. So I decide to choose, well, the first thing I think is maybe I'll do like American, like, hey, like, how are you? And then I'm like, that's not believable. No one's gonna look at me and think that I sound like that. So I settle on British, just like broadly British. Because, you know, like in Australia, we have like an interesting relationship with the UK. We have like cultural ties, you know, like they colonized us, all that kind of stuff. So then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be British. What am I gonna do? And I'm thinking, okay, well, I could kind of just do like from London. I could do a London accent and that's fine. So I approach these two girls and I'm feeling a bit nervous, right? Because this was like an improv and I probably shouldn't be doing this. And I walk up and I'm like, okay, here goes. And this is the accent that I did, which is obviously terrible, as you're about to hear. I was like, hello. Sorry to bother you. I was just wondering, I'm just visiting from the UK. I'm just a tourist here and I'm completely lost. And I've just really got to Central Station and I need to get to Central Station. I was wondering if by any chance you know how to get to Central Station. And one of the girls looks at me and she kind of considers me and she goes, no way! Oh my God, whereabouts are you visiting from? The UK? We're from the UK too! And I'm like, fuck. Because I haven't prepared for this, right? Like, this was supposed to be a short interaction. Like, I was just gonna do my accent, they were gonna say it's that way, and then I was gonna go. And so she's asking where I'm from in the UK, and I'm starting to spiral. I'm starting to really panic because I'm like, I don't fucking know where I'm from in the UK. And so then I start like all these references that kind of jump in my head, and the first one is I'm like Shakespeare, and I'm like, that's not helpful. And then I'm like, okay, like Harry Potter, and I'm like, Harry Potter's not even fucking real. What am I gonna say that I'm from like Hogwarts or something? Like, so I'm spiraling. This is like 2 to 3 seconds, right, in face-to-face interaction, but in my head I'm like, ah. And I have a memory, which is that my mum is British. So I'm like, okay, this anchors me, this helps me. And she's not from London, but I know that she lived in a part of London for a specific period of time, which is called Teddington. And I remember it because it sounds like teddy bear, which kind of, you know, stuck in my head. So I go, oh my God, what a coincidence! Well, I'm from Teddington. And then the other girl goes, you're fucking kidding me! Oh my God! I used to go to school right by Teddington. Whereabouts are you from in Teddington? And at this point, I'm like, I don't know what to do anymore. Like, this has spiraled into a place that I was really not expecting. And I'm really panicking because I'm like, I feel like at this point, the only thing that I can really do is either say, okay, girls, this is gonna sound really fucking weird, and just fess up, or I choose to run with it. And I'm like, I am an actor. Right? I have just done this one day of acting school, and I'm like, I am a thespian. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't know anything about Teddington, so what I have to do is I'm gonna have to pivot. I'm gonna just quickly answer, and I'm gonna talk about something else. And I'm improvising, right? So I'm just gonna say whatever comes. So I say, this is so stupid. So I say, oh, I'm from like the north of Teddington. Anyway, I'm really got to go. I'm really in a rush because I've got to go to the wedding. The first fucking thing that comes to me is a wedding. It's like 6 p.m. on like a Saturday. Like, I was like dressed like this. Like, I'm not going to a fucking wedding. And they're like, all right, okay. And I can see that they're a bit like, this is a bit weird, but okay, whatever. And then they say, all right, well, actually, we're walking to Central Station, so why don't you just walk with us? We'll go in the same direction. And I'm like, oh, great, yeah, amazing. And then for the next 10 minutes, as we're walking to Central Station, I'm like having to make up a fucking crazy backstory. So I'm like, oh yeah, like just here for this wedding. My we're married to an Australian guy, and like she's got a drinking problem, but like we don't like to talk about that. Like, and just like going in all these different directions, just making all this shit up, just being so ridiculous. And to be honest, not a lot happened in that interaction that was particularly of note, except, I find this so ridiculous. At one point, I got so into the acting, into the storytelling, that I forgot that I was supposed to be doing an accent. So I was just like, yeah, blah, blah, the wedding, and then I just sort of slipped back into an Australian accent and was saying, oh yeah, you know, because blah, 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 blah. And one of the girls kind of looked at me and she went, you're really taking on a bit of an Australian twang since you've been visiting. And I was like, oh yeah, like, you know, sometimes when you're visiting somewhere, you know, you pick up the accent and like, you know, when you're traveling. And she was like, yeah. So I was like, okay, anyway. So we got to the station, and Central Station in Sydney is like the biggest station. And we go to part ways because we're going to like slightly different exits. And I'm like, all right, girls, well, it was amazing. Thanks so much. Had such a lovely time. Enjoy the rest of your trip. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my trip as well. And one of them sort of turns to me and she goes, enjoy the wedding. And she winks. And I'm like, oh, because I really thought that I misled them, but I don't think I actually did. That's the end of the story. Alex, thank you so much for your story. We're really happy you're here. We miss you. We know you, of course, from the stage at Storytelling Lisbon in Lisbon, but can you quickly introduce yourself better for everyone at home and here at the venue? Yeah, oh my God, sure. I always find this question so hard. So my name is Alex. My pronouns are he, him. I've lived in Lisbon for 2 years. I'm originally from Australia, as you heard. I am what am I? That's a really fucking good question. For work, I'm a facilitator and a trainer. So I work with people, usually activists and people who work in NGOs and develop trainings for lots of different reasons, usually around systemic oppression and anti-racism. And I am lots of other things that I'm not going to talk about right now, but I'm really happy to be here.
I have to tell you that I find that story like hilariously funny. And when you told it the first time, I was almost on the floor. But I also later found that you have, like, accents are a thing for you, right?
Oh no, yes.
Okay, so you have a TikTok.
Oh no, yes.
I found the TikTok. He
no.
has you guys, he has special accent skills. So like, I think probably in the beginning you were fooling them. Do you think?
I don't know, because I was quite young. So like, I think I hadn't quite honed in accents yet. The thing is, my mum is English, so I was kind of just doing a mum impression. I don't think I knew that at the time, but I don't think it was very good. But I think now, if I was to redo this, which obviously I fucking wouldn't, but if I was to redo it, I think I would maybe be a bit more convincing. At least I'd hope so.
Okay, because his TikTok is him mimicking. It's like you're mimicking accents in all these different languages. So like, will you do it right now? Can you do it on the stage?
Okay, well, I'm going to explain what it is, which is
Yeah.
that it's basically gibberish in lots of different languages. So it sounds like the language, but it's not the language. It's just random sounds. I don't know if I can just do it. I think I'd have to like.
Okay, you have to prepare, but
think so.
but it's so good that, you know, like I spoke French at some point in my life and Spanish at some point, and when I'm listening to it, when I first listened to it, and you do English, and when I'm listening to it, I really am like, I thought you were speaking French, I thought you were speaking Spanish, and I even thought you were speaking English, but it is gibberish. But I'm wondering about that. Is that something that you've trained? Is that because of the thespianness, like, or do you have a certain kind of ear?
I think, oh God, that's a good question. I grew up with lots of different accents around me. Neither of my parents are from Australia. My mum is English and my dad is Sri Lankan, and they both have like completely different accents. And I also grew up in the States for a few years, so I think I had lots of different accents at different times. But also, like, any of my friends will tell you, I just do silly voices and accents all the time. I think I was just born this way. So I guess I don't know. I don't really know where it came from, but I really like it. I think I think it's really fun just to like, also I have this thing that I've started doing recently, which I think I probably should stop, which is that when I have to say something which is slightly confronting or difficult to someone, I say it in a funny accent. I'll be like, that was really strange, I didn't like it. And then they're like, why are you saying that like that? And then I realize that it's a way of like not having to say it normally. Therapy.
I can relate to that.
I mean, also, but what happened in the story, right? Like, you felt awkward. You were like this awkward teenager, and you're like, I'm gonna put on this character.
Yeah, and it wasn't the last time I did it, to be perfectly honest.
Tell
I've done
more.
it in some, oh god. Well, the only one that I feel like oh my god, should I tell this story?
Yes.
There was one guy who, this was many years later, I was in my early 20s, and I went to have a night of passion with a man. And I'm just trying to I'm thinking about who I listened to this podcast. And as I walked in to the apartment, he was like, oh, are you from New Zealand? And I just was like, yeah. And then for the rest of the thing, I was like, yeah, I'm from New Zealand, I'm from Auckland, it's amazing, like, yeah, it's great, it's a great country in the other side of the world. And like, I just ran with it for like the entire evening. Yeah. I just feel like sometimes people just give you an open goal, and I'm like, all right, why not?
Interesting.
I wouldn't be lying if I say that I haven't done that. Yeah.
You've done that?
Yeah, I've done
I
that.
feel so seen right now, that's
Yeah.
great, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I was thinking when I
I've
did
never
it.
done that.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe you're secure in yourself. Liz.
yeah, I'm gonna be a therapist now. Yeah, I think it has to be a little bit like that. Like when I emigrated and I found out that people actually treat better immigrants than local people, I learned that in the hard way because I mean I'm from Colombia and then I moved to Argentina and Brazil, blah blah blah. But then I realized that if you pretend to be someone else, people treat you differently. And when I went back to Colombia and I knew Portuguese already, sometimes I pretended like just at public services or other places just to be not Colombian, and I was truly.
Yeah.
And here I do it. I mean, I speak like I don't know Portuguese, so I'm treated differently. But yeah, it's a different thing. So I'm a little bit curious. Well, you have a question there.
No, well, I'm interested so you're choosing to use a different accent in order to get a different reaction towards you, but I'm also wondering if it goes the other direction. Like, does your personality shift in some way?
To make an accent?
Like when you're doing an accent, like when you were the New Zealand guy for
Yeah.
the night, like were you a bit different?
Yeah, it's like when you speak different languages. Like when you speak different languages, you have a slightly different personality in each language, and sometimes you don't even quite clock it, but you are slightly different. But I was just going to say something based off of what you said, which I think is really interesting, which is that when you look like me, I'm quite sort of racially ambiguous. You now know where my parents are from, but like otherwise you might think I'm lots of different things. Yeah. I think I grew up with lots of people projecting onto me what they thought I was, and I think a lot of the time I sort of had to run with it because I didn't have a choice. People would be like, oh, you're this, and therefore I'm going to treat you this way. And so I think in a weird way, God, this would be good for therapy next week, but I think in a weird way, maybe it's a response to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about that, I was curious because what lingered to me is that you mentioned Glee, which is one of my favorite 90s or teenage year series. How was your relationship with your parents in regards of your sexuality and being like this drama? Because I'm thinking about my parents. If I were like, I'm gonna win an Oscar and you should pay me an acting class, my dad will kick me out of the house, but that's a different story again. How was this for you growing up, and when did you realize that you wanted to be an actor? Or, like, your parents seems really supportive.
Yeah, they were. I think it's funny because I think by the age of 16, like my parents were like pretty well worn with this kind of behavior. Like it wasn't new. They were like, oh, here he goes again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But definitely when I was younger, I used to like organize. Me and my like next door neighbors would organize little performances for my parents, and like I used to just love. Like I was just always like that. I always liked performing, so they were fine. I mean, I think. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think there's so many young queer people like performing in performance. There's a whole rabbit hole you can go down about like what that means and why that is. I didn't come out until I was 21. Okay. But my parents were like, I mean, at this point, you know, if you're 16 and you basically think that you're Kate Blanchett, like your parents are like, they weren't necessarily not expecting it. Let's just say that. Yeah. But generally speaking, regarding performance, they were really supportive. I was in like a children's choir that toured around the world at one point. worked as a child singer for the opera in the Sydney Opera House. Like I had like a career as a child actor, and then when I went into my teenage years was when I was like, okay, well I need to now propel that into the future, which I then didn't. But
Oh yeah, I was going to ask, like, what happened next? Have you been acting or on stage?
No.
Besides ours?
Well, this is kind of interesting because, like, actually, this is the closest that I get to it these days. The thing that's really interesting is I moved to London to become an actor. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And that's when I lived there for 8 years. And very early on, I realized that I actually didn't really want to be an actor. I just wanted to be loved. Just wanted to be respected.
Okay.
Good audience interaction. No, but it's true, right? Like I was around all these people that were so passionate. I thought, actually, this was just what I use in order to feel good about myself growing up. And I don't actually want to professionalize it. I don't want to do this as a job. This was the way that I felt good about myself. But actually, I probably should do more performing because I think it's a fun, playful, interesting, joyous thing to do.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I really enjoy watching you on stage, but that sort of realization that you really want it to be loved, is it about having an audience? Like, is it about being seen, or do you know?
I think it was about validation. It's like, I grew up in an environment where even though my parents were broadly quite supportive, I definitely didn't feel like I saw anyone around me who looked like me, who seemed like me, who gesticulated like me, who had the same interests as me. So the only way that I could garner appreciation from people was through going on a stage and performing and people going, oh my God, that was amazing, you're amazing. Like that was how I got that feeling of validation. So the more that I did it, the more, I think the more I grew up and the more that I started to appreciate who I actually was and all of the gifts that I have. I mean, it sounds a little bit self-important, but still, the less I felt compelled to perform. And now I still think I should do it a bit more, but I don't feel the need to. I don't feel that drive of like, oh, I need a bunch of people to tell me that I'm great. I'm a bit more like, I'm great.
Great. What about our stage? Like, what drawn you to come to Storytelling Lisbon and share your stories?
I came to storytelling because my friend Nassim is in the audience. Holla, friendship, love that. Love Nassim. Invited me because it was a good way to meet people and and she was like, it's amazing, you get to hear all these stories. And I went to a couple before I wanted to tell a story. And then, interestingly, I think one of the themes came up and I just thought, oh, I have a story I could tell. And then I thought, well, why didn't I tell it? And I just did.
And I think the first story you told, the theme was breaks.
Yeah.
And you got up there and you very bravely and very honestly told about attempting suicide when you were a late teenager. Mm-hmm. And that was a very vulnerable story and a sad story. And then you came up a few months later and you told this story, which was like, I was rolling in my chair laughing.
She's got range.
Yeah, but I'm wondering about what it's like for you, for the difference in experience in telling those two separate stories that garner really different reactions from the audience, and maybe what happened after each of them for you, like.
Yeah. When I told the story about attempting suicide, it wasn't the first time I told it. I think were it the first time I told it, I would have felt completely different about it. It was a story that I've told many times, actually. And for me, it feels like there's almost like a political reason to tell it because it's a story of a young queer person of color who like broke and then who got through that and then is like thriving, if I can call my life thriving at the moment. I mean,
yes, you are.
In this I possibly am.
You're here.
So I think interestingly, I think I felt more, for that first story, I felt compelled for a reason that existed beyond me. I was like, there's an opportunity here and maybe through telling a story, somebody else will feel seen. So it felt much more external. The second story, I was like, I have such a fucking funny story to tell. And it was more about like, I think this could possibly make people laugh and I actually would really enjoy telling it, right? So there's sort of slightly different reasonings behind it. In terms of like how it felt, they both felt quite nerve-wracking. I think standing up in front of a stage of people always feels a little bit nerve-wracking. I know this is going to sound so weird, I felt more nervous for the second one than I did for the first one. I felt more nervous about people laughing and making people laugh than I felt about just sharing this like difficult but like ultimately kind of something that I've made peace with period in my life. Because I kind of didn't care I kind of thought, I'm going to tell the story, this is my story, and someone can be like, that was boring, and I don't really care. But the second story, I was like, I want people to think it's funny because I think it's quite funny and quite silly. So yeah, that was a difference in how it felt.
Yeah, that's really interesting, but it also makes sense. And did anybody come up to you after either of the stories and sort of directly relate to you in any way?
Yes, actually both. The first story I had someone come up to me and I kind of wish we'd exchanged details because he was like kind of my age, queer black guy, and he was like, he just said thank you, which for me felt really meaningful and important. And also I was like, let's be friends, but we didn't do the exchange of contacts. And a couple of people came and said lovely things and how it was, affecting, which was nice. And the second story, yeah, also people came and were like, that was super funny, you are ridiculous. And also people said things like, I can relate, and I was that person, or I knew someone who was like that growing up, which was also like, yeah, Christian is agreeing, which is also quite nice because I think for me at that time I didn't have anyone around me that was similar. So it was kind of nice to be like, okay, nice. There were multiple of us being absolutely unhinged.
And so as somebody that is a performer and has some experience on stage, and you're more of like in the actor realm, like how do you prepare for a story, or do you prepare?
Yes, I did prepare. I didn't prepare today, but I did prepare for both of the stories before. I would tell the story over and over and over in my head, and then I would go for a walk and tell it as if I was on the phone to someone, but I would just say it. And that's how I didn't learn it by rote, but that's how I got the bits of it, and then I just sort of improv'd. The first story, because it was much more sensitive, I spent more time doing that because it was important to me that I represented what happened in a way that felt authentic. I really hate the word authentic, but true. And also that I didn't treat the audience with like kiddie gloves, and that I was like, this is just what happened. I'm not going to make it seem nice. It was horrible. So I had a bit more care with that. With the second one, I just was like, I had a couple of punchlines and I thought I'll just go for it.
And how much do you think about the audience in preparation?
Well, I usually take my glasses off, so that means I can't see anyone. So sorry, you all seem like lovely people, but I have no idea what you look like. Oh, hey. You seem great. Love your t-shirt color.
My husband.
Oh, well, then we love. Well, take it. Just kidding. In terms of, what was the question? How much do I think about the audience? Not a lot. Because I think what I really like about storytelling and the reason that I keep coming is because the audience usually is so supportive and caring. And a lot of people get up, like I was quite lucky in the sense that, when I got up and told both of the stories that I told, it wasn't the first time that I've gotten on a stage and told a story of some kind. Whereas there are people that come up there and tell a story and they look fucking terrified and their voice is quivering and they're just getting the words out, and people are so kind in the vulnerability of that and are so supportive and so wonderful, as everyone was tonight, right? So I wasn't too worried and I didn't think about it too much because I think I felt safe and trusting that, however, even if I word vomited and it was awful, that everyone would be like, you know what, you really gave it a good go, girl, and I would be able to sort of move through it.
I was going to ask you, because of your stories about making accents, and I totally relate with going to a place and getting the accent from the place. I'm really aware for me, it's a mechanism of surviving the place where I am. Do you think this acting and making accents and has helped you in different ways?
Yes. Yes, thank you. No. Well, yes, and I think it's not just about accents. Like I think, like I said before, like looking the way that I look, people project onto me all the time what they think that I am. And actually, interestingly, even that's led to lots of identity crises over the years, various identity crises. It's also kind of a superpower because a lot of people will trust you because they think they relate to you. They think that they know you based off of the projection that they're making on you. So to give you an example, like my dad is South Asian, my mum is white. When I was living in the UK and living in London, I had lots of black friends who just kind of, without registering, just thought that I was black and felt like a kinship. And then I had to be like, oh, I'm actually not black. And then they're like, at that time, they're like, oh, well, we love you and it doesn't matter. And but like people kind of sometimes are drawn to you in ways that you don't even know. And so in the work that I do, a lot of which is about like coalition building and bringing people with like slightly different opinions about how the world should be together, it really helps to look the way that I do and to speak the way that I do. And interestingly, people are always asking me, I think I sound really Australian, but people are always saying to me, oh, you don't sound Australian. It's because I actually find that totally subconsciously, depending on the environment that I'm in, I'm adjusting how Australian I sound to accommodate the people around me and how they might react to or not react to that. So sometimes I end up sounding quite weirdly neutral, and I'm not consciously doing it. I'm doing it in order to allow people in, so they don't see difference, but they instead see similarity. It also helps with language learning because in the languages that I speak, I sound very like I speak them fluently, even though I don't, because I'm very good at the kind of sounds. But then it also gets you in trouble because then sometimes you start speaking like Portuguese or whatever, and then someone's like, and you're like, I don't know what that. I'm so sorry. And then you have to reveal yourself that you're actually a migrant.
You actually live in London, so did you try your British accent
good
in London?
question.
Yeah. Have you fooled any British with your accent? Because you didn't fool those ladies on your story.
You know what? I don't think I did.
You never tried it?
I think I did try it, but I don't think I ever felt bold enough to try a British accent. I think I would do like literally any other, like any of the colonies, of which there are many, as we all know. But like I definitely, no, I don't think I ever did, which is so wild. I think I was too scared. And also,
We need to go back to London.
Okay, we'll go a girls' trip to London. We'll buy an expensive flight and we'll all just watch me try and fool a British person into thinking that I'm not
I would like to be there, please. I would love to watch.
All right.
Series 2. That's Series 2.
Series 2,
We went to
we
London to
follow.
fool British people. Okay. Well, they were fooling
I'm
to Brexit,
very,
so.
very excited. Okay, and we could keep talking to you forever, but we have a whole audience, and I'm sure that there are people in this room that have questions for Alex. Any questions?
Okay, Alex, I did not know that you went to London to be an actor.
Did you not know that?
I didn't know that.
I've got so many dimensions, babe. You know what I mean? See, I'm doing it now. I didn't mean to do that.
Okay.
You didn't know that?
No. So
Okay.
what did you envision for your career as an actor? Were you like on stage? Were you in a soap opera? Like, what was this like?
What kind of, like, what did I want to be as an actor?
Yeah.
I moved to London.
Kate Blanchett.
Huh?
Kate Blanchett.
I mean, yeah. Were you listening to the story, Nassim?
Just for people people at home who are not here at the venue, the person who just asked the question is
Is one of my best friends. Yeah.
Exactly.
It is wild that you didn't know that, and we can talk about that later in detail. Hiding parts of myself mysteriously to be revealed on a stage.
Very actorly.
Very actively. Honestly, I hadn't envisioned it. What I can tell you is I started working at a cocktail bar, which was like a singing and dancing cocktail bar called Archer Street in Soho. And you had to audition. And then I was working with all of these people who worked on the West End. So I think I was like aiming towards being on the West End. But that was when I realized, because they were saying things like, I would live in a cardboard box on the street so long as I got to dance. And I was like, oh my God.
Wait.
I don't want to live in a fucking cardboard box.
What is this West End thing?
The West End is like the Broadway of London.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Latino, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's fair enough. Yeah, but it's like all the big like theatre shows and stuff.
Okay.
So that's what I was aiming towards. But really, I had stars in my eyes. I was aiming for Hollywood. That was the. And I ended up in Lisbon, and I'm not mad.
I need to see your headshots.
I definitely have headshots, and I can definitely show you. Okay.
Someone's excited. Yeah, amazing. Okay, we have another question here at the front.
Okay. So you mentioned that you met this guy and he thought you were from New Zealand, and then you started talking with a New Zealand accent. How often, if, have you moaned in a different language?
That is such a good question. Actually, can I tell you something? And this is only slightly answering your question. But one thing that I found really interesting about living here in Lisbon and learning and speaking Portuguese is that when you are in an intimate situation with someone and they are speaking a different language, especially if they don't speak English, it's really hard. I find it's like a whole vocabulary, like a whole set of vocabulary that no one teaches you, of like how to say certain things, but also how to express pleasure, like in a different language. You kind of have to revert to your own language unless you feel super, super comfortable in another one. As for how many moments that I've done in different accents, honestly, probably a lot.
Can you demonstrate?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I wanted it to, but.
You wanted it too.
Maybe give me a $5 and we'll talk.
Okay. Interesting path we're taking. Anyone else, please, in the audience? Don't be shy. This
Somebody.
is home. You're okay.
Oh,
Yeah, we have here.
What's the name of your alter ego at the bus station?
Good question.
Or what would it would be?
Absolutely.
I don't think they had a name.
But how did it feel like when you
When I think
back
back
at
to it, I don't know if she was famous at the time, but I think I thought I was Adele.
Okay.
Like, I think that's what I was giving. You know how Adele's very like, oh my God, like, amazing. It's like that's kind of what I think I was giving, or I thought I was giving. But I don't know if I actually was. Was Adele famous when I was Yeah, probably. 16, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Personal question. Do you have
Yes.
siblings?
I do, I have a younger sister.
A younger sister.
Yeah,
Okay.
imagine, like, poor her. Like,
Yeah, I'm thinking about myself when I was 16. I was like, dude, I will never, like, yeah, of course, talk to other people on the streets and do a performance, but I'm just really appreciating you for existing in the
thank
world
you.
and doing all these things amazing.
Thank you, Alex, so much for
Pleasure.
coming, and thank you for being on the stage and for sharing with all of us and people at home.
We want to end the night just by asking you, what have you learned about yourself from the experience of telling us a story at Storytelling Lisbon?
I think I've learned that even though I used performing as a way of coping when I was growing up, which I think is really present in that story, that actually I'm moving towards a place of performing. I'm kind of performing right now. I mean, I'm on a stage in front of an audience of people, and I'm readjusting the way that I think of performance, and I'm taking it away from the coping, and I'm stepping into it with a lot of joy. And I think that's really down to the opportunities that you provided for me. So I'm actually very grateful for you both for that. Yeah.
That's it for this episode of What Lingers. Thanks so much to Gonzalo and his team at LX Brewery for hosting us.
Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And also follow us on Instagram at Storytelling Lisboa to keep up to date.
What Lingers is a podcast from the team behind Storytelling Lisboa.
It's produced by Johnny Bunyan. Thank you so much for listening, and join us again for another edition of What Lingers.
See you next week.